An asteroid ended 160 million years of dominance in a single afternoon. 99% of everything on Earth at that moment had no idea it was the last day of their world. But this wasn't the first time this planet tried to erase itself. For 600 million years, Earth has been building worlds, destroying them, and rebuilding something stranger from the wreckage. So how did this alien planet become the one we call home? Picture Earth with no coral, no fish, no shells crunching underfoot on a beach that doesn't exist yet. Just water and drifting scraps of soft-bodied life with no eyes, no legs, nothing sharp enough to hurt you. For nearly 3 billion years, that's all this planet had. 3 billion years of almost nothing happening, while the raw ingredients for everything else quietly piled up. Then, in a geological blink, something switched on. Scientists call it the Cambrian explosion, and the name undersells it. Within 20 million years, evolution built almost every basic animal body plan still walking, swimming, or crawling today. 20 million years after 3 billion years of standing still. Why did life wait that long? And what finally broke the silence? The trigger was small and brutal. The eye. Once one creature could see, every creature around it had to. Prey that couldn't sense a predator coming simply stopped existing. Predators that couldn't outmaneuver their prey starved. That single upgrade lit the fuse on the first arms race in the history of life, and it never really stopped. If you dropped into that ocean, you'd meet an Amolocaris, a meter-long hunter with a mouth like a pineapple ring, stacked with blades, patrolling reefs that had existed for exactly 0 years before this. You'd also meet Hallucigenia, a creature so strange that for decades paleontologists genuinely couldn't tell which end was its head. Competition didn't just fill the ocean with new shapes. It forced life to get smarter, faster, and far more dangerous. One generation at a time, in a feedback loop that has never really shut off since. Every predator alive today traces back to that first ocean. Every set of eyes, every claw, every instinct to freeze or flee. Back then, seeing meant surviving. Blindness meant becoming lunch. That same pressure was about to push life somewhere it had never once survived. Onto dry land. Water forgives you. It holds your weight, keeps you hydrated, lets your gills do the breathing. Land forgives nothing. If you were one of the first animals to crawl out of that ocean, your own body would start turning against you within minutes. Around 400 million years ago, the first plants crept onto bare rock, and animals that followed them ashore ran into 3 problems at once. Gravity, with nothing left to hold their bodies up. Dehydration, with skin built for a world that had suddenly vanished from underneath them. And air, which their gills couldn't use at all. Tiktaalik is the fossil that shows the fix in progress, fish-shaped, but with wrist bones inside its fins, mid-transformation between 2 worlds. It's not a myth about a fish that decided to walk. It's physical evidence of thousands of generations of trial and brutal error, and almost all of those attempts ended in a body that simply dried out on the rocks. The ones that survived turned this planet green for the first time in its 4.5 billion year history. Forests spread across continents that had never grown anything taller than moss. Oxygen surged to levels far beyond what we breathe today. And with that surge came scale nobody was ready for. Dragonflies with wingspans close to a modern hawk's. Millipedes stretching over 2 meters long, shouldering through swamp litter that no longer exists anywhere on Earth. If you'd stood in one of those forests, the loudest sound wouldn't have been a predator. It would have been insects, everywhere, all built bigger than anything alive today. Plants had rewritten the rules of the atmosphere itself, and the atmosphere rewrote every animal that breathed it. But a planet that can build giants this fast can also tear them down just as fast. And 252 million years ago, it did exactly that. This is the part of Earth's story scientists still argue over, because the scale of it barely makes sense. In what's now Siberia, volcanic eruptions didn't stop for roughly 1 million years straight. Lava didn't just cover land, it burned straight through buried coal and oil deposits underneath it. That released enough carbon dioxide to spike global temperatures far beyond anything those carboniferous forests had ever balanced out. The oceans absorbed the excess heat until they physically couldn't hold on to oxygen anymore. Marine animals suffocated in water that still looked perfectly calm on the surface. On land, the air itself may have thinned to levels that would leave you gasping for breath, just standing still, doing nothing. If you were alive in that ocean, there would be nowhere left to swim to. The whole planet had become the trap. Scientists call it the Great Dying, and the confirmed number is staggering enough on its own. Something like 9 out of every 10 species on Earth gone. What's still genuinely debated is the exact sequence. Was it the heat? The suffocation? The total collapse of the food chain underneath it all? Scientists don't fully agree. But what isn't debated is the outcome. The most successful biosphere this planet had ever produced was reduced to a handful of survivors, clinging to scraps, in an ocean and a sky that no longer looked anything like home. And here's the part that should feel impossible: that emptiness is exactly what built the Age of Giants. With almost no competition left, the species that crawled out of the Permian's wreckage didn't just recover, they exploded into forms this planet had never supported before, at a scale it had never allowed before either. This is the paradox sitting at the center of Earth's entire history. Catastrophe doesn't just destroy ecosystems, it clears the field for something bigger to take over. Over the next 160 million years, that something was the dinosaurs. Sauropods like Patagotitan stretched past 30 meters, hauling bodies that could weigh over 50 tons, on legs built like tree trunks, running entirely on plants. If you walked beneath one, its heartbeat alone would be loud enough to feel through the ground before you ever saw it. Overhead and underfoot, apex predators refined killing into an art form, sharpened over tens of millions of years of uninterrupted practice. Small, feathered, endlessly adaptable, and easy to overlook. The earliest mammals survived by staying exactly that: small, quiet, and out of the way. But the real bloodbath of this era wasn't on land, it was underwater, in the dark. Below 200 meters, sunlight disappears completely. In that blackness, mosasaurs up to 17 meters long hunted using pressure and vibration instead of sight. Their jaws hinged like a snake's, so prey could never be too big to swallow whole. Plesiosaurs cruised with necks nearly half their total body length, scanning wide arcs of open water without needing to move at all. If you were treading water anywhere in that ocean, you wouldn't see the thing that killed you. You'd just feel the wake a second before it hit, and even the biggest predator down there wasn't safe. A mosasaur too young, too injured, too slow could become another mosasaur's next meal. There was no throne in that water, only turns. For 160 million years, this was Earth's equilibrium, violent, balanced, and thriving. Then, 66 million years ago, something the size of a mountain crossed the orbit of the Moon. On a collision course nobody on the planet could see coming. It hit what's now the Yucatan Peninsula at roughly 20 kilometers a second, releasing energy equivalent to billions of tons of TNT in a single instant. The crater it carved was over 100 kilometers wide, punched into the crust in the blink of an eye. If you were anywhere within 1,000 kilometers, you wouldn't have had time to understand what was happening before it was over. But the impact itself wasn't actually the real killer. The real killer came afterward. Pulverized rock and vaporized sulfur were thrown so high into the atmosphere that sunlight couldn't reach the surface for months, quite possibly longer than a full year. Plants died first, starved of the one thing they needed most. Then the animals that ate those animals. It's the fastest, most complete collapse anywhere in the fossil record. Roughly 3 out of every 4 species on Earth erased in what amounts to a geological instant, including every dinosaur that couldn't fly. An empire 160 million years in the making ended in less time than it takes a forest to grow back from a wildfire. And once again, it was the smallest, least impressive survivors who inherited what was left behind. Not the strongest, not the biggest. Just the ones flexible enough to make it through months of darkness on almost nothing. Furred, burrow-dwelling, barely bigger than a rat. They were never supposed to matter, on a planet that had spent 160 million years rewarding the exact opposite. But an empty world doesn't stay empty for long. And this time, for the first time in Earth's history, nothing left standing was big enough to stop what came next. That's the pattern running underneath all 600 million years of this story. Earth doesn't just create life, it periodically tries to erase it. And every single time, what grows back is stranger and more capable than whatever came before. The Cambrian built the blueprint. The Permian nearly deleted it completely. The Dinosaur now, while we're standing on top of our ears, pushed that blueprint to a scale we still can't fully explain with the biomechanics we understand today. And the asteroid cleared the table one final time. For mammals, for primates, and eventually, after 66 million more years of the exact same relentless cycle, for us. We are not the exception to that pattern. We're just its latest outcome. Sitting on top of 5 previous resets we mostly take for granted. If you're still watching this far, naturally, you already understand something most people never stop to think about. None of this was guaranteed, and none of it is finished. Which raises the only question left worth asking. If this planet has already reset itself completely 5 separate times, what's actually stopping it from doing it again? Right now, while we're standing on top of it. If that thought sticks with you, hit like and subscribe, because next time we go looking for reset number 6.